so grateful to be here and very happy to discuss these incredibly important and hard to talk about topics. He has an incredible backbone and staggering moral fiber. Howie is totally committed, completely ethical, totally admirable. No pressure if you can hear this, but honestly, Howie's a hero to me.
John, you joined us before, and it was a pretty incredible kind of testimony you gave, and you just devoted your life to advocacy for child trafficking, and even 9/11 truth. Maybe you could explain to us, in the last decade, what do you think the most challenging parts of coming alive on some of these issues have been?
Probably the hardest thing, and it continues, is just realizing that pretty much everything that I was told and taught since I was in grade school is probably not true.
And good evening. It's 12:01. No speeches, no music. Just you and me, Howie. Good evening. How are you?
Just the two of it. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. How are you, John?
You almost broke into a song there, I think.
Yeah. But I'll refrain.
Little Bill Withers, yeah. Just the two.
Is that who that is?
I think so.
I don't know.
It is.
It doesn't. Okay. Oh, I trust you. I just know the song.
So how are you doing? How are you? I'm a little beat.
I'm kind of like, I'm like mentally drained, man. I just feel like there's, it's been like I feel like it's been a long week, and just, with particularly with the Hollywood, the Harvey Weinstein, situation, I think there's still a lot needs to shake out, and obviously, like, Las Vegas is still being investigated, and of course, mainstream media is just, still attacking Trump left and right. So, it's just another week, but a little bit mentally drained tonight. So, it'll probably be more of a subdued show, but we've got a lot to talk about.
Okay. I'm gonna put on some somber music.
Yeah, it's not like a somber thing. I'm just, some days, there's for anybody that's like, even like, new to this, it took me a while to realize, there's a lot of ebbs and flows to, a lot of emotional highs and lows, and when something breaks, you're thinking like that's going to be it. And then, it dies down and you hit these, you hit these lulls until the next one comes. We know the next one's coming. We know the next big story's coming, and we have so much in the bank with the stories and the evidence and when is this all going to, how is this all going to come together? And some days you wish it would come a little bit quicker, but some people have come to me and I said, listen, this has been going on for, decades, centuries. And you don't, you don't undo that in a year. You don't undo it in 2 years. It's going to take a while. So you have to ride those. Ebbs and flows.
Roll with the punches.
Roll with the punches, man. And if you gotta, if you gotta take a step back, or it's getting too much, it's okay to do so also, because it's tough. It's emotionally draining at times. So.
Yeah. I was searching for some good news today, and there was a little good news, and that was, and we're going to be talking about, this is part 2.
What makes Reese's and Hershey's cookies and cream crunchers so good?
All right.
Crunch. Famous Reese's peanut butter.
Oh, crunch.
Classic Hershey's cookies and cream.
Crunchy doesn't.
Jesus.
That wasn't.
Man.
That wasn't supposed to happen.
Well, that's what happens when you try to click on a USA Today news link.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. I mean, yeah.
So at any rate, it sounded pretty good, though. I'm kind of hungry, too. But at any rate, I was looking for some good news today, and it seems that the FBI has actually made some progress in the area of child sex trafficking. And Operation Cross Country 11, I'm in the process of researching what 1 through 10 actually did, but this one netted, according to this article, 120 child sex traffickers, and 84 children were removed from harm's way, and that's, that can't be sneezed at. It seems, with the research we do and everything that we hear, it's truly a drop in the bucket. But like you said, this is the analogy I like. If you take 6 years to walk into the woods, you're not going to walk out in 6 months. So
right.
This is good news, and along with Harvey Weinstein, and we're going to be talking about the Masons and their child ID program, which is just off the wall. But yeah, let's talk about a little bit. I know you wanted to talk about some of the Hollywood stuff, and it all is important. And these ebbs and flows. You get a case like Harvey Weinstein breaking, and you hear, and we know from our research that there child rape is involved in this, in one form or another, and now it's starting to come forward, and I know you were talking about Reese Witherspoon,
right? And she said, she's come out and said that she was sexually assaulted when she was 16 years old, and and that's a start, and it doesn't seem to be getting the same kind of play that it should. I feel like, for whatever reason, Harvey Weinstein is done, and now it's okay. Everybody's coming out. Quentin Tarantino, who's done all of his movies with Miramax and Harvey Weinstein, he's come out and said that he knew and he should have done more, but he didn't.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Should have done more.
Right.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah, right. And now he feels bad. Everybody has to come out. Anybody that, knew, which is apparently everybody in Hollywood. I don't know. Some people are applauding him for speaking out, but I think, it's like, dude, where were you? Where was everybody? So, but for some reason, they're like Harvey's taking the fall, and they want to, and they do this, and they keep the spotlight on one person, and instead of saying, well, if Harvey's doing it, what else is going on? But no, it's just keep it absolutely focused on him, and keep it focused on women and not children.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And it's our job to, work hard to say, hey, wait a second, like how old were these girls getting sexually assaulted? And if Harvey Weinstein was doing it, you think maybe someone else was doing it? It's,
Yeah. And we know, I mean, we're talking about, the show.
Well, we know. Yeah. We know.
Yeah. The shows we did last week, and, please, if you haven't watched that, go on YouTube and watch An Open Secret, because that it's evidence right there. What I can't understand is and you said the same thing. Why hasn't Operation Cross Country, was splashing around the newspapers today. Where were those guys when they put out the information in an open secret?
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And why isn't now the FBI should be in Hollywood right now finding out what who wants to talk, who has story, I mean, to me that's like it's a honeypot of an investigation. But I don't know, did Harvey go off to Europe yet? He said he was going because now he knows he needs help.
Yeah. Now it's a sex addiction. He's going to go to rehab in a country that doesn't have extradition with the United States, like Roman Polanski. And that's the part that pisses me off more than anything else, is people like Meryl Streep and Whoopi Goldberg and Hillary Clinton, for that matter, coming forward and denouncing and doing the same thing that you just mentioned, making it sound like it was sexual harassment with adult women, and how horrible that is. And these scumbags, all signing a letter or a petition to get the rapist of a 13-year-old who drugged and raped this 13-year-old kid, Roman Polanski. No, don't have him extradited, and he didn't. They nabbed him, and are you telling me? This is another thing, because we talk about all sorts of corruption, but are you telling? So the Swiss arrest him in Switzerland, and we're unable to extradite this guy. I mean, we rendition people out of different countries in the world to clandestine CIA bases where they're tortured, but we can't get Roman Polanski out of Switzerland. That just doesn't sound right to me, Howie.
Yeah, I don't know how any of that stuff works, but listen, if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it, and that's pretty much the way. It seems like a no-brainer, and you get this guy, and in Hollywood they give him standing ovations and things. So it's just like, I don't know, it's starting to get just. It's sad when these things are like, oh, ho hum. I mean, it's nothing. None of this is surprising, and it just keeps repeating itself over and over again. But if we get back to this operation, what was it? Cross Country 11? Is that what they called it?
Yeah, Cross Country 11.
Yeah, I just sorry, I was outside with my dog. I just want to get back to that and get to the particulars of what's going on. Crap, I had the story. There were 55. I don't have it in front of me. I read it earlier. There were 55 FBI offices involved in this. 500 other law enforcement. Let me see what we got here. So 500 other law enforcement officers, 55 FBI offices across the country. I don't know how long it took, but some of these operations take, sometimes they take 2 years. And why it's great, they recovered 84 children and 120 traffickers. I mean, that's a lot of, when we're talking about the numbers that we know are being trafficked, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of children being trafficked each year, gone missing each year, abused. Like, unfortunately, even though it looks good, it's a drop. It's a drop in the bucket. And if it takes those kinds of resources to arrest 120 people and to rescue 85 girls, I mean, at that rate, we'll never make a dent, in it. And that, that's my take on it. The youngest girl that was rescued was 3 months old, and the oldest was 15. There's, just read one snippet here. During the operations by FBI Denver's Rocky Mountain Innocence Loss Task Force, A 3-month-old girl and her 5-year-old sister were recovered after a friend who was staying with the family made a deal with an undercover task force officer to sell both girls for sex in exchange for $600. So this is the type of shit that we're up against. And I had the misfortune of being in front of a television a little bit today, which I don't get to do very often. And I was bopping around the news, and I'll tell you right now, this is not anywhere, in mainstream media. At least on the television. Why they don't consider this big news? Well, we already know the answer to that. You still there, John? Oh, I think I lost John. I do not realize. Hold on for 1 second. Let's see if we can get him back. All right. Well, anyway, he'll probably be trying to call back in. But anyway, like I said, 84 children rescued, 120 traffickers arrested, but it took, a lot of resources to make this happen. And, it's up to the people. You back, John?
Don't know what that was all about.
Oh, all right. I was, I went through my whole thing, and I was like,
I'm sure it was great.
Well, it wasn't great. I was, I was talking about the 3-year-old and the 5-year-old that were offered up, for $600. But 50. I was just saying about the 55 FBI field offices, including 78 child exploitation task forces, along with 500 other law enforcement agencies across multiple states, to rescue 84 children. Why it looks good. It's a lot of resources, just to, get 85, and we're 84, and we're talking about like hundreds of thousands. Like we were talking about earlier, it's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, and weren't those figures? Yeah, like you said, the children that are going missing are in the hundreds of thousands.
Oh yeah.
And last year, I'm just looking at this, right, and it, I'm just reading this article, and of course this is USA Today, so it's a canned article that probably was given to them by the FBI or the National Center, and last year, a whole year with all those people that you just mentioned. They recovered 82 sexually exploited children and 239 people, and this is, I guess this has been going on since 2003. 6,500 children have been recovered. So,
it's nothing.
The missing are in the millions. So, Wow.
But if you look, and if you think about it, like these 2 girls that were offered up for sex, they weren't missing. They weren't, they weren't part of some kind of ring. It was a family friend who made a contact with an undercover agent and just was selling them off. I mean, there was no, so that, that's not even, they're not even, that's just a separate kind of thing.
Yeah. And, and it also said in 4 days, they did this, but I would bet that's the only 4 days this year they're going to be doing that. And they were preparing since last year for this.
Oh yeah. Yeah. They didn't. Yeah. Definitely took. And of course they had the help of the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. But, what I was saying also that, I had to, I had the opportunity, misfortune, whatever you want to call it, to be around a television today. And, and of course a story like this is just, nowhere on, a CNN or an MSNBC or even probably not even Fox. I wasn't really watching Fox, but, if it could get, if it can make front page headlines, that a 3-year-old was off. I'm sorry, a 3-year-old, a 3-month-old girl was offered up for sex. Because people like they don't think like that. But we were seeing these stories of toddlers. So man.
And maybe that's a good place to segue into our topic, which is this Masonic chip program, which is not a chip that you implant yet, but it's their child identification program, and this is one of the most disturbing things I've seen since I've been doing this. And the links are going to be in the show. I'm going to tweet this out in a minute, but it's really simple to go to this website. It's gachip.org, and I'm on it right now. And this is a gift from the Freemasons of Georgia. They provide this free of charge, and the only problem with it is the whole thing just makes no sense and looks like it's endangering more kids than it's helping, and that it, other than identifying a dead child, that everything that they're doing, all this data they're collecting, is useless for recovering missing children. And the most egregious lie that's in their literature is, and let me just recap how this was uncovered and how it came to us. And it was
sure.
A friend of mine happened to be searching through old paperwork to find a birth certificate or something for her kids, and she finds these little brochures, opens them up and sees her younger children, because these have been done several years ago, and sees their pictures, sees their fingerprints, sees all this information about them, and sees a little space on the form for hair or a fingernail, a place for dental records, and on the outside of it she sees the Masonic symbol, and she's researched, she's pretty well aware of a lot of different things, but she knows about the pedophile networks, she knows about the Masonic involvement in the upper levels of government and the corruption there, and specifically, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit tonight, is their obstruction of the child sex abuse inquiry in Britain and Australia. But at any rate, she found this and sent it to me, and I'll never forget it. I mean, I saw the pictures of these brochures, and seeing that young baby, just about a baby, on this, literature and all this stuff, I started digging on it, and there was relatively nothing, available. And I'm thinking, well, maybe they got Amy McPherson. She was a contributor.
We lost you there. We lost you there for a second.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back. Yeah, you're back. It was just for a couple seconds.
Well, at any rate, we started to investigate what this thing was, and it just made no sense at all. There was very little information available on it, and the information I was able to access, all these different lodges across the United States that had this program going at one point, and now there was no trace of it on their website. It had been, basically obliterated, and they had grand plans for this program when it first debuted, which is, I think, around 2003, somewhere in that neighborhood, and they actually had a national website set up, and you can see that in our show notes too. And I encourage.
I think John is having some audio problems. John, can you hear me? once again, hopefully he'll be back for in the not too distant future. Caught me off guard here. John knows more about the CHIP program. I was supposed to. I kind of dropped the ball. I found a phone number for it, and I was supposed to call in the past 2 days, and I really didn't get a chance. But I'll be doing that because anybody that wasn't listening on Tuesday, you back, bro?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Now I can.
No, apparently somebody screwed around with my Wi-Fi. So I went on 4G, so I think hopefully this will help. But
Okay, that's fine. Were you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
No, I said, were you able to hear me before when you cut out, or?
Yeah, I could,
Okay.
and then I couldn't. So it was like, well, I'll just call back. But at any rate, we started. I don't know where I cut out, but we started to research this program, this CHIP program, and it was just alarming the way it had been set up and the buildup it was given, and law enforcement. And they got an award from the National Center for Missing Children, and then there was no information on it, which is very strange. Google it yourself and Masonic CHIP program, and you'll have a hard time getting some information, but you will get some information. And the best information I was able to get so far, and I'm trying to contact her on Twitter and any other means. Amy McPherson, she's a journalist that was a contributor to HuffPost Canada that had done an article back on this around 2009, 2010. And it's a great expose of the whole program, how worthless it is, how troubling it is, how unnecessary it is, and the fact that they signed up, I think, 1.5 million children and collected all this data that they say they've thrown away on a proprietary software system that nobody knows anything about, that is not compatible with law enforcement, and they did this in a country that has no DNA database due to privacy. So it's a great article. It's in our show notes. Please read it, and it gives
But you know what? But even if here to me, aside from everything else, if they were going to do some type, if somebody was going to implement some type of chipping program, it doesn't seem like a private organization like the Masons. It's something that they would take on. It doesn't. It just, they have no. They just have no right to do it. It would be a governmental thing.
Yeah, and the way they were able to usurp that was the members of their organization that are in the law enforcement community. They thought this up, they implemented it, and just went and did it without permission, without legislation, without anything.
There's a little video on the gachip.org website. And looks like Ross Laver, he's in charge of this thing, obviously a high-level Mason, and he calls it a gift to the citizens of our state. Because they're,
well, hey, tell you what, keep it.
Yeah, right. It's like, well, man, we need, we're feeling philanthropic. Like, what can we do? Like, hey, how about we start chipping kids? Who comes up with this? Shit.
Yeah, and I think, and I don't know this because there's so little information available about it now, but we found out that it's still going on, because one of our investigators found a brochure from a lodge in a western state that is still doing this, but they only mention it in their internal newsletter. So when they started getting heat, apparently from this article and maybe a few others, we're just starting to research this. So and we rely on you, the people that are listening. the people that are on our Twitter line, the people that are on our Facebook page, there's some very, it's just, I'm hoping, and we have a traffic report crowdsource page on Facebook that you can go to and post information and talk back and forth with other people that are also investigating these type of things. And I just encourage you to go and be involved with that. And also on Twitter, you can DM us, any information that you have. But we are really at our infancy of investigating this. And the way I look at it, this should be a pretty high-level Justice Department type investigation, because what they're doing goes against everything the FBI has, on DNA collection. I mean, there's no nightmare where the way they're collecting DNA in a parking lot could be used or is proper in any way, shape, or form. And just in their own ad on their own website, DNA and scent. The swift recovery of a missing person can be aided by tracking dogs. Really? So they put your kid's DNA and scent, by the way. These are scented, Missy said that last week, scented DVDs or CDs that they give you back. And apparently you can just take them out of your safe when your kid goes missing. They can have a dog sniff these things and they can find your kid. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And the fact that they're lying on their own website is, that's alarm bells, red flags, And we've had some, and I know people that are Masons, and they're really upset that we're even talking about this. And I could really care less, because I give them the same information that I get, and the same advice that I give any people that try to get information from us. It's do your own research, and if you can go on and read this website as an informed human being and think that it's okay, then there's something wrong with you. And if you see it for what it is, which is at least a lie, you better be researching it further. And we encourage, everybody listening to the sound of our voice to do so, and to pool that information. And we're going to be continuing to investigate. But the other egregious part of this is that we know just isn't the case. Is they're claiming that all data is permanently erased, and then the parents get, anybody knows anything about a computer, knows that's not the case. And it's just there's red flags all over this thing, and it needs to be highly scrutinized and stopped. And hopefully these events are scheduled right now. Go to one. Ask these people, watch them. Sit back in the parking lot and watch what they're doing. Are they taking hair samples off these kids? Are they mouth swabbing them? What exactly? And if there's one in my area, believe me, I'll be there in some capacity trying to see exactly what they're doing, because what they're doing and what they're saying they're doing is a lie. So, we'll have more on this, but go to these websites, share them, let other people, and we've had a lot of good response on this story of people coming forward with information, and we're going to follow up on it, believe me, because this is with their, and I'll just shift gears a little bit, but
well, I just say I found this. I found this literature this is where I found the phone number, but it looks like it's from 2008. And basically, it says, thank you to the 46,900 Georgia Masons in the 425 lodges across the state of Georgia who have continued to support the GA CHIP program, which is a statewide program led by the Masons of Georgia to take vital information of children from their height and weight to photographs, audio, video, and dental impression that parents can give to the police immediately in the event that a child goes missing. No information is kept by the Masons. A GA chip packet and a CD containing all the data is collected and given to the parents. That's what it says.
Yeah. And the other thing about this is, why are they doing this with babies? within a very short time, none of the photographs will be next to useless. You know, what's up with that? You know, how everything that they're collecting here, but they're saying they're not collecting it, is, I mean, any parent would have all of this. They'd have pictures of the child at the age that they were abducted. They could get DNA.
The height and the weight. You know, the height and the weight.
Yeah, and you know, they can take them to their local police department and have them fingerprinted. You know, and frankly, that's the only organization that I would trust. You know, doing something like this. You know, not you know, some Masonic lodge in a parking lot of the Food King. You know, I mean, it's just ridiculous. But I just, very troubling, and in light, that's another thing that none of the Masons want to talk about, and you know, and I tried to say this, you know, last week, and I've said that to several people this week that I've talked to about this. This is not an indictment of everybody that's in Masonry. It's just not. I mean, I believe that, you know, a large percentage of them get into that organization with good motives. They do some good work. But as the question I have for them is, you know, when you see the corruption at the highest level of government, when you see it at the highest level of the Boy Scouts, at the highest level of USA Gymnastics, of our university system, of our sports, every facet of life has been infiltrated with pedophilia. Why would they think the Masons are any different? Why would they even think that couldn't be going on at the upper levels of their organization? Are they different from everybody else? It makes no sense. And what I want to see a closer examination from in this country is how officers that are in this Masonic system are performing their duty, because the way I understand it, and this is documented record, this isn't conjecture, it's not theory. They're at the point in Britain where they're having to almost redo the whole inquiry into the child sex abuse in that country, and the major reason for that is obstruction by members of the police force that were trying to protect brother Masons, you know, and that's just beyond the pale of any organization that should be allowed to operate. And we see it also in Australia. You'll see a link in the show notes too that's exactly what it covers. And I'm trying to and YouTube is also a great repository of information on this. Go on YouTube and just search Masonic child abuse, and you're going to get hundreds of videos. And there's some very competent people. There are people that have come out of that organization, and these are the ones that are telling people what goes on inside it. You know, whistleblowers. And I would encourage, you know, and anybody in that organization now to do the research for yourself. And it's right there in black and white. I mean, the internet is, you know, there's a lot of crap on the internet, but there's that's where all the evidence and the facts are too. And you have to dig a little bit. And you're going to have to. It's not an organization that prides itself on its secrecy. You know, it's never going to be transparent. You know, it's a secret society. You know, and that was the whole point of these two shows that we did. You know, and leading in with Kennedy, you know, in a free and independent democracy, the secrecy is abhorrent, and it should be. You know, we should be transparent, and it just doesn't lend itself to rooting out any problem that organization might have, whether it's financial, whether it's, you know, sex abuse, whether, you know, whatever it is. The secrecy, you know, surely time has taught us that lesson, you know, and especially in this country, it's killing this country. And Kennedy was trying to bring an end to that, and we saw what happened to him. But this other website that's very good, and it's about everything that's going on in Australia. And we were talking about this too. The Catholic Church, that's a Masonic organization. The Knights of Malta, the Vatican P2 Lodge. These organizations, and I'll be damned, they're riddled with child abuse. So there is a definite link between Masonry and pedophilia, whether they like it or not. And it's parents' jobs to research this, know what organizations are operating in their hometown, and see what's gone on in Britain and Australia. And what has gone on is they've practically, people, offenders have gotten away because the evidence has been spoliated. The whole process of investigation has been hindered and obstructed by individuals that are members of the police force, sworn to protect and serve their populations. But the oath that supersedes that for Masons is the one you take to your brother Masons. And I don't see how anybody can be allowed, to be a member of that organization and take an oath to protect and defend either their country or their community. How do you reconcile that, Howie? I can't see that being reconciled.
Well, I mean, I just don't, I don't understand it. The closest analogy I can make, I mean, I went to college at Penn State, and, the Greek system at Penn State is massive. Okay. So, we get up there and, 19 years old, living in the dorms, and sororities at Penn State are not allowed to have their own houses. So they take out floors in a dorm. And, we were kind of surrounded by a lot of sororities. So, we're thinking like, oh, great. We're surrounded by a lot of sorority girls, blah, blah, blah. And, they just, you wouldn't look at you, wouldn't talk to you. You're just, if you're not part of the system, then you're on the outside. So, that was my first sort of, indoctrination into any type of, I don't want to call it necessarily a secret society, but like a closed society. And, obviously something going on there. And, I just, I didn't get it. And it was something I never wanted to be a part of. I never wanted to be, I just never wanted to. And the people that do want to be a part of these things and they don't want to talk about, and, we have, whether it's a secret handshake or, or what's it all about? And, we're not allowed to talk about, we don't talk about it with outsiders. So, that lends itself to, and once again, secrecy, it lends itself to, maybe there's something bad going on, maybe there's not. But, also, if you just, if you look at sexual assaults on college campuses and things that happen at, fraternity houses, story after story after story after story. And, I just, you don't have to, it's not too much of a leap, to make a connection that, and like you said, not everybody, it's not saying that every single person is in on this, but, as you ascend to the higher echelons within the organization, I believe the only way you can achieve that position is, by doing those types of things. If that makes sense.
And again, nobody's going to do this, but if you want to understand what Masonry is, Google William Cooper's MP3 archive, and the Hour of the Time has 23 hours of education taken from textbooks, Masonic literature, Masonic books. Bill Cooper had one of the largest libraries on all of these esoteric societies and secret societies and the religion that they practice, which is Mystery Babylon, out of Egypt. And you can understand it. I mean, he goes back, he starts the series with the movie 2001, A Space Odyssey. And as we know, Kubrick was highly involved in these circles, and over a period of time became so disgusted with it that he tried to expose it in Eyes Wide Shut, and he died shortly after that. But at any rate, and that's what Cooper uses. You can see the symbolism from the start of the movie all the way through it, and he explains all. It's just brilliant, and yeah, it's a time commitment. But if you want to understand, one of the bones, the nuts and bolts of the power structure. If you think it's an accident that the Scottish Rite Masonic Temple is a block from the White House, you really haven't been paying attention, and you need to do more research. And all these high-level senators that are also pedophiles are generally 33rd degree or higher, members of the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. So, the information's out there. Please do the research yourself.
Can you explain that? Can you explain that Scottish Rite? Because I don't know anything about it. There's I know outside of Philadelphia there's a Scottish Rite auditorium that has holds concerts and stuff, and I don't know anything about it really.
Yeah, well, Masonry in Britain basically formed into two sects, and one of those was the Scottish Rite, and the other was the York Rite, and they have different ceremonies and different degrees, and but the one that the one I'm interested in is the one that's a block from the White House, and that the Scottish Rite is been linked with all high level politicians in this country. It's been linked with the KKK. It's been linked with and the Ku Klux Klan was also a Masonic organization, or a branch of one. There were high level Masons in it, and so yeah, that's I guess the world class of Masonry is the Scottish Rite with the highest number of degrees, and there's even degrees that supposedly are unknown, that are even higher. The Rosicrucian Order is another one, and the Knights of Malta. They're all throughout the Catholic Church, throughout the Protestant world. They're just everywhere. It's truly worldwide, and it is part of the infrastructure of power, and facilitates corruption and facilitates child trafficking and the pedophile networks. All these DC pedophile networks that you hear about, they were being attended by senators, and I don't think any of them weren't at least 33rd degree Masons. So do the research yourself. There's a number of people on YouTube, and they were in it up to their neck, and just were eventually their conscience got the better of them. They left the organization, and they took a lot of heat for doing it. But they're on YouTube, and they tell you everything that was going on there. So it's in plain view. And if you want to understand it, and you want to understand the world that you live in and why it is like it is, do the research, share it, talk to your friends about it, share it on Facebook, share it on you might lose a few of your friends that are probably good people and low-level Masons and have no idea themselves of what's going on in the upper levels of this organization. So it's all
And I think it's worth repeating. I tweeted it out on Tuesday. There was a man. His name was Myron Fagan, and he was a writer, producer, director, in Hollywood, and he was part of the Red Scare in the late 40s and 50s. He was labeled a communist. But in 1967, he did a about 2.5 hour dissertation about Illuminati, starting, and how it's started with the Rothschild family, got into the Council on Foreign Relations, and it's just, it's just 2.5 hours of just information. And for everyone that says, oh, you believe in that stuff, and it's just all conspiracy and everything. I mean, listen to this guy and listen to what he's saying, and how could somebody make something up for 2.5 hours, giving the details that he gives about how these secret societies started and why they started and what they evolved into. And it's, and you're listening to something from 1967, and I'm telling you, the guy could have been, talking, last week. It's the same thing that goes on and on and on. And, and it's, people are asleep. People are asleep. This stuff is out there, and it's been out there for, years. But if they don't see it on, they don't see it on that television, and talking about, and I don't know how many people are familiar with the Council on Foreign Relations, and that is that's an organization that everybody should know about, and they take members from all walks of life, including media, key people in media, politics, business, you name it. And, they're labeled a think tank, and, they give it a, interesting name, like the Council on Foreign Relations, that somehow they're, doing world good and, basically coming up with ideas to how to make the world a better place. But, if they were trying to make the world a better place, maybe they would be releasing more information, about the things that we talk about, but obviously they don't.
Yeah. Well, and please visit this one website. It's called pcfpc.org, and it's an Australian organization that has exposed this, and they show you the design, and there's a great graph, and how they infiltrate the courts, the police department, all of our social institutions that are supposed to be protecting children, the state and federal police, the political system, military intelligence. they're that's a hotbed of Masonic involvement and a tool of this apparatus that's murdering and torturing our children and raping them. So please go. It's just a really good graphic that they have, and they have a lot of other information too. But it shows how they do it, and it's by design. It's no accident, There is a plan in effect, and this mystery Babylon religion, it's basically a form of Satanism, and there's satanic ritual abuse going on to these kids, and they claim to draw power from these practices, and that's why they do it. They're not doing this just to do it. There's they call it abuse by design. So please investigate these sites, share them, and people need to be aware of what they're up against, because it is. It's I just
and what they're getting involved in.
I loved and what they do. Everything has two meanings, and we saw, the Pizzagate stuff, the Pedogate stuff. it's right there in your face, but it has two meanings. And I just love the way Kennedy did that. He took a speech, where he's talking about the Soviet Union, but he starts it off talking about secret societies, and that monolithic conspiracy that he's talking about is both. He was really, really a smart guy. And
John, before we sign off, I just wanted to throw this in because obviously we did a couple shows on USA Gymnastics, and a very famous gymnast came out this week. Her name's Michaela Maroney. She was part of the 2012 U.S. gymnastics team. Won a gold medal at the Olympics in the team competition, and she's accused Larry Nassar of abusing her at age 13, and it lasted for quite a few years. And this should be this Larry Nassar thing should just be all over the place, and for some reason we see it just can't gain traction. We're talking about an Olympic gold medalist. We're talking sexually abused at 13. We're talking about Reese Witherspoon, a very famous actress at 16. We're like how is this not getting on mainstream? We know how it's not getting on mainstream media, and hopefully the doors have opened a little bit for more people to come out, and and it will be from all walks of life. Unfortunately, it just popped into my head that AIDS was out there for a really long time, but it wasn't until Magic Johnson came out and said that he was HIV positive that people really said whoa. Unfortunately, that's the way things work, when it happens to famous people. So, sadly, if that's what it's going to take, but, it happens to everybody famous, or just that, anonymous. So, but hopefully the Larry Nassar story will get some more legs.
Yeah. And let me just second that, and I want to leave you with a list of 33rd degree Masons. Buzz Aldrin, Yasser Arafat. Let's see, Tony Blair, Winston Churchill, John Wilkes Booth, Hugo Chavez, Jimmy Carter, Henry Kissinger, Bob Dole, General James Doolittle, Gerald Ford, Newt Gingrich, John Glenn, Barry Goldwater, Mikhail Gorbachev, Al Gore, Billy Graham, Bo Gritz, Bobo Grits. That's what William Cooper used to call him. J. Edgar Hoover. Think about it. Thanks, Howie. See you Tuesday.
Yes, you will. Have a good weekend, everybody.